Let's get started.
Welcome to the Financial Purpose Podcast. All opinions expressed by me or guests of the podcast are solely our own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Life Moves Wealth Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for any investment decisions. Clients of Life Moves Wealth Management may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast. Hey there, welcome back to the Financial Purpose Podcast. This is episode 71. Thank you so much for joining today. I was kind of joking right before we started the podcast. It'd be fun to have my own radio show, which I guess the podcast is kind of like that, right? So this would be like WLMW, Financial Purpose Radio, or something like that. I have the face for radio, but not the voice for radio. So anyway, thank you for listening to the podcast today. I want to talk about breaking free from indecision, specifically in business. And I'm thinking about this topic because the past couple of meetings I've had over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe, a lot of it has been the conversation kind of gets stalled around decisions that need to be made, but we're slow to make those decisions, or we're indecisive about which way to take certain things. And so I just want to address that straight away. I want to talk about why indecision happens, especially in business and certainly in your own personal financial choices. I mean, I sometimes, for both business and personal, run into a bit of indecision, and there's some reasons why. Naturally, you always want to make the best choice possible. You want to have the best outcome. You want to set yourself up for success. So I want to talk about that, why it happens, more importantly, of course, and then how to move forward. That's really where we want to be. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, I do want to give a quick plug. Business owners in Arizona, the Business Transition Summit is coming up on February 25th. That is a Tuesday. It's just about a month away. We're nailing down the final details of the curriculum for the day. Again, it's a fully educational event. It is a non-sales event. Nobody that's there is going to try to sell you anything, not even their books, not even their programs, not even their services, nothing. It's purely a day to get educated on how to run your business better, how to treat your business like a financial asset, because that's what it is. And then as you're running your business like a financial asset and as more of an investor, less as an operator, how do you then start to set yourself up for the eventual way that you want to monetize the business? For most business owners, that business is your retirement plan. Let's actually put some steps in place to help you get the outcome that you want to get. So go to businesstransitionssummit.com, click on the Arizona link, use code LIFEMOVES, one word, LIFEMOVES. At checkout, you'll get an extra $100 off. It's going to bring your ticket price down to $295, but only until February 1st. So don't be indecisive about this. Just go in there, plug it in, use your business credit card, tell your CPA that you're going to have it as a business expense for next year because it's education, and go get yourself educated. Bring your management team with you, because these are the folks who are probably going to help you not only implement all of the things that you're going to learn and write down and have as takeaways, but also they very well may be part of your strategy for how you eventually monetize that business and make your exit. So businesstransitionssummit.com, coming to Scottsdale, Arizona, February 25th. Use code LIFEMOVES at checkout. Get yourself there. $295. It's a great investment. I'll be on stage. I look forward to seeing you there. February 25th, businesstransitionssummit.com. All right, let's get into the episode here. So why people get stuck on decision-making. There's generally 4 factors that really come into play. They all touch one another. They're all related and kind of interdependent, but I'm going to isolate them one by one. So the very first is fear of failure, which is a cousin of fear of missing out. But fear of failure stops an awful lot of business decisions from moving forward. You're going to hesitate as a business owner to make the decision because you don't want to make the wrong choice. You don't want to take too much risk that's unnecessary. You don't want to lose employees. You don't want to lose customers. You don't want to lose revenue. You don't want to increase cost. And so you hesitate. And some of that risk aversion, it's going to stem from maybe a past failure. Maybe it's going to be you feel that the stakes are just a little too high. Maybe you don't have enough information. Sometimes it's not even something that you've experienced, but something that you've heard somebody else talk about that they've experienced. And it's just a pure fear of failure. And the thing with fear of failure is understanding why it's so important not to fail. Actually, like taking the time to sit down and say, what is at risk? What's the worst thing that happens if this fails? And sometimes it's you would have sunk money or it's a sunken cost, money gone. Maybe you missed an opportunity to do something else because you were focused on this thing. A lot of times it's reputation that stops people from taking a risk that might cause them to fail. And sometimes that reputation is in their own head. And it's not what the marketplace or what your family is going to think about if you try something and fail. Because here's the thing. If you do fail, it's because you tried something. And there's a lot of people in this world who won't even take that step to try something because the fear of failure is way too big for them to actually want to jump out and take a risk that's worth taking. And so sometimes failing is really just the next step to success. It's not catastrophic, right? So if you take somebody like Thomas Edison, who, we could probably argue stole all the technology from Nikola Tesla. But anyway, Thomas Edison didn't fail at creating the light bulb 1,000 times. He just had 1,000 ways to not do it the next time that he tried. Failure actually can help you move down the road closer to what you're trying to get to. The trick is you've got to be willing to step out, take the risk, and make the best decisions possible. The second reason why people are going to get stuck in the decision-making process is they simply have decision fatigue. There's too many choices. They're overwhelmed by decisions or process steps or not knowing what to do next. Sometimes it's just paperwork fatigue. Like this morning, I had to fill out my business license renewal for the city. And because I changed my office address a year ago after my license was issued, I had to fill out this felt massive to me. It really was just one page and not a big deal, but I'm a whiner. Like I had to fill out this whole stupid page about my business when the city already has this information on file. Just issue me a new license. Sometimes it's just stuff like that, getting set up with the Arizona Department of Revenue. Maybe that's stopping you. Maybe, going through the process of getting an operating agreement in place or writing your bylaws or whatever. All these things can be fatigue, and they can be choices because each one of those things is a choice about how you move forward. So sometimes there's too many options to consider, too many marketing strategies, too many different places to put financial investment. That whole analysis paralysis sets in. Sometimes you'll overanalyze a business decision. Sometimes you'll overanalyze the way that you want to market a certain product. If you're considering an expansion or a new product line or even a new personnel addition to the team, you might overanalyze what you want that person to do or what their job description is going to be or how you're going to not only bring in the piece, but maybe where you're going to store the inventory and maybe how you're going to market it to clients and maybe what your price point is going to be and what your cost inputs are and what your break evens are. Maybe you just over analyze that and then analysis paralysis sets in and the choices are overwhelming. Maybe you want to wait for the best time to make that step. And so deciding when the best time would be could be problematic. And the thing is that I've learned in business and in life and with money and investing and a lot of different financial planning choices is that there's never a perfect choice, ever. There's never a perfect time. The numbers are never exactly where they need to be. There's never a perfect situation. You just have to take the best shot that you've got in your hand while the ball's there, while there's time on the clock. And just know that you're always going to be making a trade-off somewhere because things can't be perfect. And if you wait until they're too perfect, that time, the money, the numbers, the opportunity, the people, that perfect opportunity is just almost never going to come. Maybe once in a while you strike the lottery and everything lines up exactly the way it is. The heavens part, God comes down, hands you the opportunity. And even then, if you're overwhelmed, you're probably going to say, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of wait for the next lifeboat to come by. Just take the risk, analyze what you need to analyze, understand that it's never going to be perfect, and then just be willing to step out. Number 3, sometimes why people hesitate is because their goals are unclear. And when you don't have a clearly defined direction or destination in place, it's difficult to know what decision is going to align best with your long-term objectives. If you don't have a clear goal, it makes it much, much harder to analyze the numbers and analyze the opportunity and think about the people and the product and the customers and the marketing and the investments. That lack of clarity not only causes you to hesitate, but it puts you into a repeated cycle of hesitation, because if you don't have alignment, nothing's going to feel right. If you don't know where you're headed, anywhere is going to work, and so that increases your decision fatigue. The lack of clarity is exactly why businesses write a mission statement, or at Life Moves Wealth, it's why our clients, including our business owners, write a statement of financial purpose. What is it that you want to reach? How is it that you want to behave around money? And what criteria do you want to use to make decisions in a way that's aligned with your values and where you want to end up? Whatever your outcome intended to be is, we need to make decisions that are aligned with that. When you get that level of clarity, why do you exist? Why are you making this decision? What is it that you're trying to reach? What values are you using to evaluate it? When you get that narrow focus down, it becomes much, much easier to make any decision you want, financially, in business, financial planning, investing, all of that, because you have a criteria set. And if something comes in and it doesn't meet the criteria, you either kick out that option because it doesn't match, or you reevaluate the criteria to make this thing match because it hits some other hot button or it solves some other problem, and you just need to adjust your decision-making criteria, or you adjust your variables, or you adjust your numbers. But you don't do that over and over for every decision that comes in. You only do it when something is very important but doesn't currently align, and you need to modify or upgrade or update or something like that, your criteria. But for the most part, once you've set it, your values as a person probably aren't going to deviate that much. So once you understand what you want, it's much, much easier to come about deciding how you're going to get to where you're trying to go. The 4th reason that people get hung up is all of the emotions that all of that wraps into. So the fear of failing prompts an emotional response. Overwhelm and decision fatigue prompts an emotional response. Lack of clarity prompts an emotional response. And emotions like that fear, the doubt, the overwhelm, the underconfidence, sometimes overconfidence, all of that clouds your judgment. And the decision-making that's driven by emotion is exactly why you need a purpose that's well-defined, because your emotions will 100% take you in a completely different direction. It'll alter your mindset for a short period of time, and it very well could take you off course. And so you have to know what it is that's most important, because it's going to influence the way that not only you decide things, but the way that you roll things out to your team, the way that you talk to your customers about it, the way that you talk about it in networking, the way that you market it, the way that you present your company to your vendors when you're trying to renegotiate contracts. All of those things, if you're not in a situation where you're in control of that emotional hijack, you will be pulled off course, and it will sabotage what you're trying to accomplish. And so all of those emotions amplify the hijack that happens. You've got to be able to control them. So those are the 4 factors that cause overwhelm. Next, I want to talk about the cost of indecision, and then we'll go into some strategies you can use to get this under control to help you make better decisions going forward. So, we've talked about a financial impact. If you miss an opportunity, sometimes that can be greater than failing at the opportunity that you do take. So, missed opportunities to invest or to scale a business can result in lost income. You can stunt your growth. You can lose key employees. You can lose business. All of those things have a financial impact on your business, and it can make it very much harder for you to then keep going forward and make the next best decision, because it can put a tightness on your cash flow and your ability to make investments and to grow and to bring a new product and to attract investors and to get good vendors online and things like that. It wastes a lot of time because you're going to overthink opportunities. You're going to wait for the perfect time. We talked about the more that you overthink it, the more it opens up the universe to overwhelm in your decision making, because you have too many variables and too many options. That all is mental strain. It causes a lot of headaches. It causes you to lose sleep, right? It can mess with your nutrition. It can mess with your ability to stay healthy and to stay on your routines. If you're mentally in a not great place, it's going to, of course, go through your entire system, and now your emotions again are all jacked up. Your blood pressure's jacked up. Everything just gets really out of whack. And then, of course, all of this just leads to more and more and more opportunity costs. And the people who are so excited when you have these issues are your competitors, because you just make the game easier on them, and they win much, much more readily. They'll take your business, they'll take your top people, and you're going to be out of position to score points because you've wasted a lot of time and energy and focus and financial stress being stressed and being unable to make the decision. So I'm going to give you 5 strategies for how to move through indecision and just start taking action. The first thing you can do is you can follow the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. And it's very simple. Focus your energy on decisions that have the greatest impact. It's not the 80% of things that are on your desk or your calendar or your task list. It's the 20% of things that are going to have the biggest impact on your business. And what's really interesting about the Pareto principle is that if you go through and you analyze, where are my top revenue coming from, the top sales, the top customers, the top performing assets, it is 20% of the business and the activity and the clients and the products that are driving 80% of your results. So focus on that 20% that's very critical. The other 80%, delegate that out to other people. Let them bring you decisions, because they can analyze the factors. You can focus on the 20% that's going to push the business in the right direction. They're going to bring you details on the other 80%. It's going to make your decisions much, much easier. Sometimes, if you have the right people in place, they'll make the decisions for you and just report them up to you. That's a beautiful place to be. You've got to trust your team, and you've got to build the culture. If you listen to the very last episode 70 of the Financial Purpose Podcast, I talked about building a culture of mentorship. And when that's your culture in your business, the business and everybody inside of it will run itself at a very high level, and it'll have an insulating protective layer, because your people will want to protect the culture and the results and the outcomes and who's in the room and what they're doing on a daily basis. It's going to be a better environment for your business. So instill that culture first. Delegate second. And number 3, trust the decisions and the input that comes back from your people, because it frankly does you no good as the business leader or the business owner to ask somebody to do a task and to get information together for you and for them to bring it to you. And then you decide that you need to be the one to implement and to do this and to do this research, because you don't trust them, or you haven't learned to trust yourself enough to turn those things over. So you've got to be able to release that 80%, let other people take care of it, because they get to be a who in your business. They get to be who to you, and then you get to be who to them by trusting them and growing them and mentoring them and teaching them how to make sharper decisions and to align more with what's going to move the business forward. So follow the 80-20 rule. Second, set deadlines on your decision. So give yourself a specific time frame by which you need to do all the evaluation, get all of your due diligence done, talk to whoever you need to talk to about how to make the decision, bring in your financial experts and your legal experts and your product experts and your whoever it is that needs to be involved in that, and then make a decision. And so if it's hiring a team member, you say, I need to hire a person and we need to do this by the end of this month or by the end of this quarter or by the first half of the full fiscal year, whatever it is, set a deadline. Same thing for bringing on a product. Same thing for buying a new building. Same thing for expanding a product line. Same thing for taking over a competitor's business. Same thing for buying out a smaller distributor. Whatever it is, set a timeline so that way you know when you need to have your milestones along the way completed so that by decision day, you know what you need to do, you know what you're going to do, and you implement whatever it is that you decide going forward. Set the deadlines. Number 3, embrace iterative action. And what I mean by that is find out what it is that you're trying to do and what steps you can take and continue to take those steps. So what is it that you can do systematically, repeatedly, to get yourself to where it is that you're trying to go? How do you set yourself up for success? And what is it that you need to do? And so it can be very simple as running a test. So have a pilot version of a software that you're trying to launch, or take a new product line and send it to just a sample number of clients. Or if you're trying a marketing strategy, do an A and B type thing, but keep making choices and taking the steps. Test your steps for effectiveness, and then you'll know exactly which direction to go. That action that you're going to continue to take over and over in a given direction, even if you have to course correct, it's going to give you a little bit more clarity. It's going to eliminate some of the things that you might get stuck on or overanalyze. And it's going to build momentum because you're going to start to see something working. It's no different than doing a workout program. You don't see the results until you continue to go and continue to go and continue to go and continue to go and try things and modify and adjust along the way. It builds momentum. Number 4, leverage a decision framework. And that's going to be doing things like you have a list of pros, you have a list of cons. Another way that works well is an if this, then that thought pattern. Sometimes it can be a decision tree. Whatever tool it is that you use, set something up so that way you can evaluate outcomes. If I take this action, this could be an outcome, this could be an outcome, this could be an outcome. Don't get stuck on 25 possible outcomes. Try to narrow them down or group them down into these are the 2 or 3 things that could happen. Pro, con, or if this, then that, decision tree, whatever it is. Put something in place, use it to evaluate what you need to do next, because sometimes just that whiteboarding exercise can help you see the landscape a little bit clearer. Bring in somebody you trust from outside of the business to help you think through how you're going to take the next step forward. I have had my clients, a couple of them, bring me into their office to talk about changing a pricing structure for their services. And yes, I'm the financial guy, so of course I have a lot to say about how they're using money and what things might be better than others and tax implications and all the things. But just having an outside voice, or even having, I know some people who they have an advisory board that's like 10 or 12 of their favorite clients. You know, the type of people who they come and do business with you for a long period of time, and they would run through a wall for you and you would run through a wall for them, right? You have that camaraderie in place. You bring them on in an advisory board capacity and you test these decisions and you get their feedback because they may be end users of your product or your service or your pricing model or your training or whatever it is. And so however you set up that decision framework, set something up so that way you're at least thinking past your own nose. Because as a business owner, that becomes very difficult because I often as well get kind of trapped right here into that decision making and I need to write it down or I need to go sit in the woods for 2 days or in the desert this time of year for 2 days and think through it. Or I need to go on a bike ride. Sometimes I do my best thinking when I'm behind bars, right, on my bike. Sometimes you get really good ideas in the most random places. Sometimes I'll be driving across town and I will just shut the radio off or the podcast or whatever I'm listening to, shut it off and just drive in complete silence because I can think. And then I whiteboard it or I bring in somebody that I trust to bounce those ideas off from. And that's really part of that decision framework. So not to beat the horse any further, set up a decision framework and use it to your advantage. And then number 5, which I think plays into this, seek outside perspectives, bring in somebody, a coach, a consultant, an advisor, a best friend, somebody, a colleague, as a professional who may be competing with you but is in a similar position, or somebody from a networking group or a mastermind group, whatever it is. Bring in somebody who can hear what you're trying to do, hold you accountable for what you're trying to accomplish, and give you some perspective that is outside of your own brain. So that's number 5. So again, those steps that you can take, just to give you a one more pass on them. Number 1, use the 80-20 rule, which means focus on the 20% of things that drive 80% of the results and delegate the rest. Number 2, set deadlines for decisions. Always have a SMART goal. Make sure it's something that can be measured and that is time-bound and that is important and that makes a difference, and set a deadline. Number 3, embrace the iterative action of taking steps and building momentum, launching a pilot version, giving a test, doing an A and B marketing, as I said, all of those things. Just take a step, try some things out, do some process of elimination by experimentation. It's going to help you, again, get more clarity, build some momentum in the right direction. Number 4, use a decision framework. I talked about if this, then that. We talked about pros and cons. We talked about a decision tree. And then number 5, bring in an outside perspective, somebody who can see a different angle than you're able to see, because sometimes you're just too close to the decision. You're too close to the numbers, too close to the factors. Bring in somebody who isn't as emotionally involved as you are, because they'll be able to see things from a different logical standpoint. Okay, real world application. If you're getting the gist of this, sitting on a decision wastes a lot of time, it wastes a lot of energy, it wastes a lot of money. And I'm going to tell you from my own experience that the factors probably aren't going to change the longer that you sit on a decision. Now, sometimes new information evolves, and sometimes that's because you haven't done enough due diligence, and sometimes it's because something really does change. But you're going to reach a point where you know as much as you can know, and you just need to take those 5 steps that I just went over to make the decision and to start taking action and to do whatever you need to do. So I'll challenge you this as we kind of wrap up. This is a little bit of a shorter episode, but again, I think this is fairly straightforward. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I was reminded of a quote this weekend from, I have a peak performance partner that I have a phone call with every Saturday morning. His name's Bud. Bud, if you're listening, I love you, man. We have done this since 2013. So this is like year 12 for us to do this literally every week. Sometimes, I will say sometimes maybe 2 or 3 times a year, we have punted a week because somebody's traveling or somebody's ill or something doesn't work out, whatever. But for 13 years, we've done this together where we sit down, we write out a win, a loss, a fix for that loss, and an aha moment from the week. And we write it down because we hold each other accountable. And both of us can go back and pull notebooks where we can say, in 2016, you said this, but you're doing this today. So what's changed? Hey, why are you still sitting on that decision from 2 years ago or from last summer or from 3 months ago? It's incredibly helpful. And anyway, I was talking about this weekend, and he was talking about a decision that he's stuck on, personal decision. And he said, if you remember this quote, and it was from a pastor of a church that we had both attended at one point. And the quote was this, and this is from Mark Beeson. Some people listening may know that name. Mark is no longer with us, but man, what an inspiration, and what I talked last week in the episode of mentorship about bumpers, and this guy was absolutely a bumper for an awful lot of people. But anyway, the quote is, if the horse is dead, dismount. Don't keep beating it. It's not going to move. Nothing's going to change. Get off the horse. So, in reality, reflect on where you're on a horse that you need to dismount, or maybe you're on a horse that you just need to give better nutrition so you can keep going to where you're going. I don't know. I'm trying to pull an analogy together. It's not working for me. I can tell. Anyway, reflect on indecision, where it may be holding you back in your business or in your personal finances. Choose one of the strategies, the 5 things that we discussed, and apply it to any decision that you've been postponing. I think even just the decision framework, that tip alone makes a huge difference, because now you're able to actually start thinking through something outside of your own brain. So do that. And remember that action outpaces indecision, and it certainly outpaces perfection every single time, because nothing's ever perfect. There's never perfect conditions, perfect time, perfect weather, perfect day, perfect people, perfect money, perfect numbers. Never, never, never perfect. But there are some times that are pretty darn good, and you should take that action. So small steps lead to the big results, and you can only take small steps by making a decision. So do that. Use the framework, pull in people to help you get out of the emotional hijack, get out of your own head, get yourself a little bit of confidence, and just take a step forward. And you're going to find that these decisions become easier to make. The clarity comes when you start making steps. It's going to help you define where you want to go. And that's going to help you with all of this. It's going to help you get free of the indecision. So if you have questions about a decision that you're trying to make in your business, if you aren't sure how to move forward with your finances, or if you are stuck on what to do with an old 401k account, or if you're not sure how to get prepared for filing your taxes here in a couple of weeks, or if you're undecided about a big business move that you need to make this year, and you don't have anybody who's helping you with any of those things, please send an email to info@lifemoveswealth.com. That'll get to me directly, and I am happy to help you look at these decisions, figure out what's going to be best for you, help you understand the financial implications, help you understand the operational challenges. More importantly, help you get to people who can better help you with some of these things. So if you need a tax professional, I can help you get there. If you need an operations consultant, I can help you get there. If you need somebody to help you sharpen your sales approach and the methodology, I have that person, right? Use me as a hub of information and as a hub of connection to people who can help you get to where you're trying to go. So I have an awful lot of who's in my sphere of influence, and that's on purpose. These are the people who help me move in a given direction, and they help my clients move in a given direction, and they can be helpful to you too. So send an email to info@lifemoveswealth.com. We'll be happy to help. So that's it. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If it's been helpful to you, re-listen to it, subscribe to the podcast, Like it on whatever social you're finding it on. Share it with people who can benefit from the information. And I certainly appreciate it. It helps me a lot. It gives me some direction on what is important for people, what would make sense for me to talk about, because I don't want to just sit here and fill air. I want to make sure that I'm providing good education, good financial literacy, and something that's going to be helpful to you, the listener, as you move forward. So that's it. Until next time, go be financially awesome. Take care of yourself, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care. Thanks for listening to this episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. To learn more about your financial purpose, visit lifemoveswealth.com.